Hi everyone! So today we're going to do something a little different. With the pandemic feeling like an increasingly distant memory, the former activities have been restarting at Elk Island. Among these is the Bison Backstage Tour. And no, it has nothing to do with a bison's backside. Or maybe it does. We'll see. The Bison Backstage Tour is an hour-long tour that you can go on that takes you to the historical barn and into some of the management facilities. Currently, it's offered on Saturdays during the summer months and is free with the purchase of your park fee. We gathered by the flag on this rather chilly afternoon, not sure of what to expect, but looking forward to the tour and the opportunity to see some of the less seen areas and learn more about how the bison are managed. After a short walk out to the barn, we gathered on the grass outside. Our guide finished introducing herself, and as a unique icebreaker, had us all give our best bison roll. I think it sounded pretty good. Here's the real thing for comparison. Our guide told us the story of how the bison had been moved to Elk Island from Montana in the early 1900s. Since then, the bison have been so successful in reproducing that they've been introduced to many locations across North America.
Primarily it was through overhunting. So when folks came over here from Europe and other countries, they brought with them their guns and their horses. That made hunting the bison a lot more efficient and faster. And the bison hide was considered a great thing to have in Europe. It was a robe that people would wear, so it was very prized in Europe. So the bison would be hunted for just their hide and leave the rest to rot in the fields. Also, their tongues were considered a delicacy back in Europe. And at that time, it's not like Amazon Prime where you can click and you've got something overnight. So it was really prized to have the tongue, which is an item you can sell for a lot of money, but you can ship over the ocean, and it's a small item, so you can sell a lot of them and get a lot of them over the ocean. So a lot of things are happening for our bison. They're being overhunted. Train lines are coming in across the west, and if you've got herds of tens of thousands of bison, and you've got a train, and train meets bison, what do you think is going to happen? The trains were getting derailed all over the place. So they would actually station hunters on the trains. They would shoot bison out the window as they went along and just leave them. They would do nothing with them. In comes Canada. Hello, bonjour. We come back into the story. We offered to buy those bison from Michel Pablo. At the time, we bought them for $250 a head, which might not sound like a lot, but back then, that was a lot of money. So we bought those bison from him, and then he told us it would take him about 3 months or so to round up those bison and get them to Canada. So they had to be shipped by rail, and they had to be rounded up. But he discovered that he'd been very successful, and he actually had twice as many bison as he thought he had. So it took him a little bit longer to get those bison together. How long do you think it might have taken him? What do you think?
About like 12 hours.
I wish it was 12 hours. But that's a good answer. Yeah, what do you think?
About a year.
About a year. We're getting closer, absolutely. A little bit longer. So he said 3 months, so it actually took him 5 years. Wow. It took him 5 years to round up all these bison, because bison are wild animals. They do not want to be rounded up.
Our tour continued, and as we exited, we were able to look around inside the barn. This barn was built for horses, which were used to manage the area back in the early years. Now it's a spot to educate groups about the park. In recent years, many bison have been repatriated to Indigenous-owned lands.
That was about 2002 is when we stopped having horses. Yeah. Feel free if you want to feel a bison hide, go ahead and touch it. This is the only...
There is also a variety of bison bones and elk antlers to have a look at. A small moose antler, as well as other various bones, had been found. Meanwhile, the sun had broke out and bathed the barn in a lovely light. We also took a moment to listen to the spring song of the Corioborus frogs.
Yeah.
Just had 2 babies, so it's really bad for them. And tuberculosis is just like our tuberculosis.
We continued on our way to the facility. In the far distance, we could see some bison. A maze of chutes and
Now
walkways greeted us.
there are about 11,000 or more in wood buffalo.
This octagonal area had a number of ropes that could be pulled to control gates and cordon off the bison where they needed to be sent.
Have to transfer bison out of this park in order to keep the numbers where we need them. So one of the ways that we do that is with this facility. So over the course of several months, the bison will be out in this field. This is where they primarily love to graze. This is the most grassy area in the park. This is the hay meadows. So they'll be grazing out there, and right now you can actually see a small bachelor herd. So we call them bachelor herds because they are males. And females, if you see a large group of them, that is the matriarchal herd. So they will actually kick males out of the herd when they're about 2 years old or so. And so if you see a really large group of them, those are females and their babies. There's no, usually not any older males among them. The only time that changes is in August-ish. That's when their breeding season is. We call it the rut. Then you'll start to see the males rejoining those large herds. But otherwise, if you see a group of about 6 to 8 or so, those are males bachelor herds. They actually form friendships when they're younger. So usually when they form those friendships, that's the group they leave together with their friends from childhood. They form their little herds and head out on their own. It's pretty cool. Not so nice for me. Very nice for them. They like it a lot better when it's that temperature when we're working with them. So that's why you can see, like in the original version of this facility, these were wooden. They've been replaced with these kinds of catwalks so snow can go through instead of build up on top and then have people slipping and sliding all over them. So now they're built a lot better for people. And this facility constantly gets improved and rebuilt. You can actually see it happening right now. So we used to walk down these catwalks here and come out down over there. That's not happening anymore because they are removing them to make more space for sorting pens. And I'll talk about that when we're down there in a second here. So we're bringing the bison through. We're bringing them out here. We have a carrying capacity of 1,000. They increase their population by 20% every single year. This is a very good park for them because there's no diseases, and up until now there have not been very many predators. That's kind of changing, so times are changing a little bit. People may not know, but we're actually seeing a large increase in black bears in the park right now. So if you're hiking in the park, I always recommend that you have bear spray on you and that you periodically clap your hands and shout out like, "Hey bear!" That's just really handy, especially if you're coming around a blind corner. That way you're not going to surprise them, they'll hear you and they'll move off. It works for bison as well. So same thing, your greatest chance of having a negative bison encounter is if you startle them. If they hear you coming, you're way more likely to have a better time on the trail than if you startle a bison. It's not a good time if you do. Before we head down, are there any questions?
Our guide had explained that much of the work with the bison is during the cold winter months as the bison get less overheated and therefore less stressed. This is a view of the former catwalk that is being rebuilt. An overhead map of the area.
Okay, so welcome to the squeeze room. We call this a squeeze not just because it can sometimes be a squeeze with how many people are in here, but actually just because of this machine that you guys see right here. So this is actually a very large machine that operates with hydraulic pressure, and it's got a few purposes. One is that it's a giant scale, so it's going to weigh the bison as they go through it. Two, bison are herd animals, so they actually like the feeling of pressure on the side. It helps to calm them down. So when they're in there and they get a little pressure, it's kind of like, oh, I got a buddy next to me. You know. The bison here have been disease-free certified. certified since 1971. We want it to stay that way. So we have to check every year to make sure that they're still disease-free. Other things that we're doing is we're going to give them a handy new accessory. If they are leaving the park, we get them all blinged up so they get to get a nice earring. When they're transferred, we have to treat them a little bit like livestock. So just like livestock, we have to give them an ear tag to identify them. It also helps us to keep track to make sure, okay, this one's going to, for example, Frog Lake First Nation, then we know by that number that we're sending it to the right place. So we've got to give them a handy new accessory to take with them. And I don't know, do I have any guesses? Folks have a guess?
Yeah.
What do you think?
A glove
A glove? Absolutely. What do you think we use it?
for picking up food.
That's a good guess. That's one of the things that we do with it. Yeah,
Artificial insemination?
that's a good guess as well. The primary purpose is actually pregnancy check.
Yes.
So, absolutely, this is used for a pregnancy check, but also, first off the top of my head, I know Frog Lake, Onion Lake, we've sent them to Métis Crossing, we've sent them to Flying Dust Nation in Saskatchewan, and many, many other indigenous nations. So, as I told you guys before, a huge wrong was done to indigenous peoples across North America. And we can never, ever undo that wrong. We can never make up for that. But we can take small steps towards reconciliation by returning the bison into their original stewardship, into the hands of indigenous people, and returning bison back to the lands that they've always been on under indigenous stewardship. So we can never undo that wrong, but we can try to take these small steps to reestablish that ancient connection and put indigenous peoples back in control, back in stewardship of the bison, and back in the fate of the bison and the story of the bison as they always have been, trying to bring that back and keep that going. So that's the primary focus. We also send them to conservation areas and other parks. So for example, in 2017-18, we sent a number of them up to Banff. So we sent 10 pregnant females and 6 young males up to Banff. They stopped updating the numbers, but I think it's over 100 now.
Whoa.
So they have really, really increased their population there. It's really fantastic. We actually put them in modified shipping crates and then took heavy lift helicopters and then airlifted them into the Panther Valley back in Banff National Park. So it was a good time for them, and now they're roaming quite freely. At first, people thought they would just stay down in the valleys, but they're going everywhere. They're going up mountains. They're going all over the place. They're rediscovering ancient wallows of their ancestors. So they're uncovering the wallows of the past and creating new ones. This is really important because wallows provide habitat for other species. So bison are a keystone species, and they help to increase the habitat for other species.
The whiteboard had a previous plan of what bison were to be collected. It was a worthwhile tour to learn about how the bison are managed. I hope you enjoyed learning about the impacts Elk Island has made in reintroducing these amazing animals across the continent. As always, thanks for watching.